Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to my warehouse and my shop. Today on the Build Show, we're talking new products and new tools. And while we're back here in my tool area, I thought I'd show you a couple new ladders that I got recently. And full disclosure, Little Giant gave these to me, but man, they have some cool new stuff in their product mix. Like this 24-footer, this is really quite light. They call this their super stance, or pardon me, they call this their sumo stance. Super stance would have been a good name too. Ladder, so these two sides right here actually widen. Let's see if I can do it while we're talking. And they actually got a little further too, so now you've got a nice firm grip. That ladder's not gonna move on you. But one of my favorite features is kind of a hidden feature. See how that last step is orange colored? When you're coming down the ladder, that last step makes a, see that? It moves and clicks. How many times have you come down the ladder thinking you'd hit the last step, you hadn't, and you fall? Now you've got an audible click and you feel it with your feet. Nice work, Little Giant. I like that. All right, so I think in one of my last videos, I showed you my studio under construction. Here's actually one of the products we're gonna talk about today. We got a big load of Rockwell Safe and Sound bats. These are fantastic for soundproofing. And Gilbert, who you've seen on my pocket door videos, a great Finnish carpenter we work with, has done an awesome job. We're not quite there yet. Not quite ready to film today, but Gilbert and his guys framed out this wall. They framed out the next wall you see there, and now it's gotten covered with a black fabric. And then this wall right here got framed as well and covered with fabric. And then those Safe and Sound bats are gonna fit right in between. They're still visible here. We're gonna leave that visible. But these are getting covered just to help absorb that noise. It's kind of deaden the space a little bit. And then in the future, we'll have a desk right here, and where they're covering this wall with plywood, we're actually gonna stucco that, kind of make it look like a concrete or a stucco wall. We'll put a big Build logo there, and in the future, you'll be able to see this as our studio space. We're gonna get some new lighting for here. It's gonna be really cool, but let me meet you actually at the desk, and we'll get started on today's video. All right guys, new products. You know how I love building products, and this has been really fun. This is our second episode. The last time we published, a bunch of you sent me some interesting things, some emails, and even a bunch of these things even came on pallets. So let's get into it. First up, the first interesting product from Japan. My friends at Sugasuni sent this to me. This is a brand new product in their catalog. This is a touch latch. You know how you can touch a cabinet that doesn't have hardware and it'll throw it back towards you? Well, most of the cabinet touch latch hardware is just a real small amount of force. But when you're doing a hidden door, let's say a 10-foot tall door, in fact, at my house under construction, I've just designed a hidden door with a safe behind it. Now I can use a product like this because this has like 11 pounds of throw. It's really gonna push the door out. And it comes with a magnet that you would mount on the door so that as the door closes, it engages with that. And then when you push the door closed, it's gonna hold the door closed. The magnet has like 25 pounds of holding capacity, and this has enough force to actually throw it out. Now I've been using another brand for some years now, but I've gotten a lot of pushback over the years because it's pretty expensive, like 100, 150 bucks. This one looks like it's gonna retail for around 50 bucks. So that's a great new product. And by the way, if you don't have it already, you might request their catalog. They have some incredible hardware in here. Next up, also from Japan, the Joto-Vent system. This replaces your traditional vents that you would have in your foundation. So you'd port a regular foundation, no vents, and then this goes down before your bottom plate goes down. So now you can avoid those kind of cheesy looking foundation vents, which also are prone to flooding and insects and all those other things. And you could put this down. This is gonna give you a continuous vent on your crawl space around the entire perimeter. Now they have a cool accessory that goes with this. After you put your 2x down and then you put your sheathing on, you're gonna put this down on the wall, and it's gonna allow venting through the bottom here, but you won't see it. So in other words, that venting is not shown. Now, in Japan, the reason why this was kind of invented, it sounds like around 40 years ago, was because they found when earthquakes happened, those cutouts in the foundation were a weak spot, and they'd have foundations that would crack. So this allows you to pour a continuous foundation. Kind of a cool product. I don't do a lot of vented foundations. I tend to do conditioned crawl spaces. But if you're a vented foundation builder, very interesting product from Joto-Vent. Also apparently very popular in Japan. I think they told me they've got like 60% market share. Next up, an acoustic product. Now these guys are made in Switzerland, but they apparently have a US branch. It's called Top Acoustic USA. Looks to be very commercial oriented, but I could see this in high-end residential as well. What you're looking at here is some wood veneers with this very interesting kind of laser cut MDF pattern. Kind of hard to see from these samples. Let's actually pull this one out. Here you go. Now you can see it. Where it makes kind of a baffled system inside there. And the numbers that I read on their brochure are shockingly high when it comes to sound absorption. Like 95% of the sound that might come towards this panel, or I should say up to 95%, might be absorbed depending on the panel that you opt for these guys. As I've been building my sound studio for future episodes, you'll see that. It's been really interesting to research these kinds of products. This is an expensive product would be my guess. I actually don't know pricing on this. But if you're an architect watching this, you're doing commercial spaces, man, they have a ton of options. I could also see locally architects like Alter Studios using this on some of the really interesting and cool modern builds like I've done before with them. I'll put a link in the description for these guys. All right, next up, this is a pretty interesting product that I didn't know about until they contacted us. And funny enough, Steve Basic, if you've watched any of Steve's videos over on my buildshownetwork.com, Steve actually has a job going with this. This is called Perfect Block, and this is a variant of an insulated concrete form. They actually call this a ICCF because it's a mixed product, right? This isn't the traditional white EPS block that you pour concrete in the center. This is actually a mixture of EPS foam and concrete, and in fact 100% recycled EPS foam from what I understand. Comes in 4-foot sections, different widths. I think you can get this in like 8, 10, and 12 widths. They even sell an offset model. And when you stack these and foam them together, not as much bracing because you've got a pretty heavy block. You don't have that issue with kind of buoyancy on those lighter blocks that need a ton of bracing and need to really be sandwiched together before you pour on them. A couple big benefits of a block like this: fireproof. You could drop a torch on this and it would not burn. Very pest resistant, pest proof. You know, mice, rodents, cockroaches, things like that are not going to get through this. You could use this just for a foundation, or really you could build the entire wall structure all the way up to the roof line with a product like this. And by the way, Steve has some great videos from Martha's Vineyard on a house under construction with this. Kind of crazy timing that I heard about it, and Steve already was in process designing a house with it. That's a pretty cool one. I'll put a link in the description for Perfect Block below. Okay, next up, this is one that I would probably not use in my marketplace, but you might in yours. This is called the Everlog Systems. Basically, if you're using a siding meant to look like wood siding, oftentimes houses are framed traditionally but have log siding to look like a log cabin. Those require a lot of maintenance. And this is, on the other hand, a really low or basically no maintenance version. Now these logs, up close you can tell that they're not true wood. You know, if you really get up tight to them, you can tell that they're not. But I gotta say, it's a really good fake. And the fact that those are made out of concrete and then are basically screwed onto the building, and then later you're gonna come back and do some kind of chinking in between those logs, I would say, man, that's gotta be a super low maintenance and honestly really good fake. You can learn more from these guys at their website. No affiliation with these guys. They just emailed me after the last episode was posted. I talked to the owner of the company, really cool guy, and really sold me on the product. I was impressed. And then he said, oh, I'll go ahead and ship you a sample. I thought he was gonna send me like a little 2x2 sample, and this came up on a pallet. Cool system, I gotta say, impressive. If you're building log homes or houses that look like log homes, that might be a good option for you. Okay, next up, I want to show you a couple door products. And by the way, I'm doing a webinar next month on September 17th from the BMC Mill Shop up in Dallas, talking about Doors 101. So if you're a builder, remodeler, architect, I'll put a link in the description for you to sign up for that. Just an hour-long webinar. I'm going to do some of it live and some pre-recorded from a door shop. But the BMC guys in Dallas were telling me about a couple new products from Endura. Now, I've known these guys for a long time. I've used this product in particular for a long time. This is called their Frame Saver Jams. Basically, most doors have some type of wood jam. And at the bottom of the jam, where you get all that splashback from the door, you find a lot of rot in this area. So these guys have basically put a composite, kind of like a Trex decking type product in that bottom couple inches so that no rot is going to happen down here. Now, that's been on the market for a long time. But what's new is this. This is a replaceable deck sill, RDS. What happens at the job site often is you'll see damage on the job. Like this sill here has a bunch of scratches on it. Really easy for job site damage to happen. But with this system, all you're going to do is take a putty knife, and you're going to pop a putty knife in this bottom channel right here, and you're basically going to pull it up and dislodge this bottom piece, and it's going to slide right out. And then you can replace it with either the same color, brand new, or whatever color you wanted, let's say. And it's going to slip right back into that same slot. There's actually a groove for waterproofing purposes that it's going to go into right over here, if I can get it to line up nicely. And then you're going to take a wood block and a hammer, and you're basically going to just beat that thing right in. And now you've got a brand new sill on there. So if you had some job site damage, boom, that'll be taken care of. Even better though, I really like this. They have a, what's often referred to as a dunnage cover that you can get straight from the mill shop, and you could request this to be delivered with your door so that you wouldn't have the finished sill on there to begin with. You'd have this cover actually on your sill. So it would look like this underneath. You go through construction, let these get beaten up, let paint get dropped on these. At the end of the job, you pull these up, and then you'd have this replacement sill which would pop back on, and your cap that would pop on there. Last thing I wanted to mention from these guys as well that's fairly new from Endura, although I think I've seen this at past building shows. I think this has been on the market for a little while. I just hadn't really thought about it. This is their Z-Series articulating cap. Basically, where the door sweeps and lands on the sill, if there's any movement in your subfloor, let's say you're building over a wood floor, sometimes you'd have to go back and adjust these caps. But instead, with this one, you can see this actually articulates. It's kind of at an angle, and when the door shuts, it pushes it down. So you're going to get a better seal. And in fact, if the door was out of level just a little bit, because of that articulation, it would seal all throughout the bottom. That's a cool system. Now, Endura has kind of good, better, best in their products. So when you're specifying, when you're ordering your interior doors, you want to tell them, I want Endura products, I want Endura sills. But if you want these specific products, these are kind of their premium line, their top of the line products. They're replaceable deck sill, the articulating cap, that sort of thing. Now, funny I say premium brands, we're not really talking about a lot of money for this though. I'm not sure the exact cost. I'll have to get back to you join me on that webinar. But my understanding is this is maybe something around a $15 upgrade, $20 upgrade, something like that. So it's not a lot of money, but you need to ask your door rep whenever you're ordering these from your millwork to include these products. Okay, that's it for building products. Let's go out to the field, and I'm going to show you a couple of brand new tools that I thought were interesting. Next up, new tools on the market that I think are interesting. Coming to you from my house under construction. I'm in the framing stage and I'm just about ready to do punch out, and I think this is going to be a really handy tool for that. This is the Milwaukee Fuel 21-degree cordless battery operated nail gun. We're going to turn it onto the base here. We've got sequential fire or single fire. Supposedly up to 3 nails a second. That is a lot of nail power. Now it is a little heavier though. This thing's like 12, 13 pounds compared to a standard cordless, or pardon me, a standard corded framing gun that might be something like 7 and 9 pounds. So a little bit heavier, but if you're a builder who's doing punch out, blocking, decking, all those kinds of jobs, it can be really handy to not have to roll out the compressor. Okay, next up, a new hammer I'd never seen before. This is the Boss hammer. Looks like a regular hammer for framing. It's got a waffle face. It's gonna hold your nail, and then it's got a flat spot. So now you basically have a nail starter. So now we can swing our hammer, start that nail. Now remember, this is a waffle face, so you're gonna make those marks on there. That waffle is gonna hold the nail as you're swinging, but remember, this is just for framing. Don't use this in finished carpentry. It's got a built-in speed square, so check that out. Let's see how close it is compared to my regular speed square. It's pretty good, I'd say. So that's the line I struck with the Boss hammer. That's my speed square line. Let's do one more. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfectly square, but if you're framing and let's say you dropped your speed square, you're up on some rafters, you needed to do something, that could be handy. And it also can do angles too. So let's say I want to cut a 45 degree here. We're going to put the pause right there. We're going to mark up 45. Now it's an angled handle, so it's probably not perfect, but in a pinch, that could work as a speed square. Pretty nice from the Boss hammer. Okay, next up, a joist hanger tool that I'd never seen before. Let's see if I can get this one out right here. So this is called the Hangman Tool. I'm not exactly sure how much these cost, but the inventor sent this to me and I thought, man, that's really cool. I've never seen anything like that before. Hangmantool.com. So what it's gonna do is, if you're laying out your hangers, often it's hard to nail these on ahead of time, or you might toenail your joists in and then put these hangers on later. But this is going to help you by actually having a spot to kind of slide in and hold your hanger. So check that out. You slide that on. It is going to index off the bottom of your rim joist. And now you can use either a hammer or, of course, a nice pneumatic gun to nail in that. That's pretty sweet. A hanger tool. Hang 'em fast is what that's called. Next up, my friends at Crescent sent me this, and I thought this was a pretty impressive new shear that I hadn't seen. I've started carrying shears with me more often in my tool belt when I am working, and these are pretty nice. I think they're just called tradesman shears. They have two flavors here. They have some serrated teeth on the bottom, so they'll actually hold the material as it cuts. And then this one is a really particularly nice one because it's spring-loaded. And they even sent a couple rubber samples so you could see how quickly and easily it's going to destroy this product. That is really nice. You know, if you were doing multi-purpose jobs, if you're a handyman, if you're a weekend warrior, having one of these in your tool belt at all times, that'd be pretty sweet. I like that. Okay, next up, speaking of cordless tools, if you don't want to use a cordless framing gun, maybe a cordless compressor is the way to go for you. This is by Milwaukee as well. This is going to use their Fuel line of batteries, which work on all their equipment. And this is one of the few that I've seen in the market that's really light and easy to get around with. And now you can use all your standard nail guns. Now, you're not going to use this if you're a production framer or if you're trimming out a whole house, let's say. But again, if you're doing smaller jobs, if you're doing weekend warrior work, if you need something lightweight to carry in, like me, I'm pushing 50. I'm not really interested in carrying an 80-pound compressor around. This is pretty nice. I like this. Impressive job by Milwaukee. Next up, Diablo. The people at Diablo called me about this, and I thought this was really cool. And check out this awesome sample kit they sent me. I actually need to drill my anchor bolts later on this house because this is a remodel. And these new bits are going to handle the issue that has come up for years, which is rebar. When you hit rebar, a typical bit that's got your brazed on cutters is not going to handle that rebar. You're either going to get jerked as it hits the rebar, or it's certainly not going to cut through it, or you're going to totally crush these very expensive bits. These are aptly named the Rebar Demon. Look at that. That is pretty evil looking, I gotta say. I'm going to actually use these pretty soon on this job to drill those anchor bolts, like I said. So I'm curious to see what they're like, but they've got all different sizes. My guess is this is a premium bit, and it's going to fit in the standard SDS type head. All right, guys, that's it for new tools for this edition. If you're interested in featuring anything on this monthly edition, whether it's tools or products, shoot us an email. Or if several of these things that I've got actually coming up have been things that you, the builders, remodelers, and architects that watch, have said and emailed me and my team, hey, you should check this out. And a couple of those are coming up on the next episode. So look for our email address, look for our address if you're interested in being featured on this. This is really fun to show you some of the new and cool stuff. If you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.